Hello, all. Welcome to another episode of Love Warriors Podcast, brought to you by North Valley Community Foundation. I'm Bill Hubbard, Director of Charitable Gift Planning, and this is actually part of a sort of a mini-series. Today, we're going to be talking about the multitude of funds that we have at North Valley Community Foundation. And when I say a lot of funds, I mean a lot of different types of funds. And with me to help get through it all is Logan Todd. He is our VP of Operations, but he is also intimately involved in the creation of many of the new funds that people want to set up. Welcome, Logan.
Thanks for having me, Bill.
Anything you want to start off with?
No, I'm just really excited to talk about this. I think it's really interesting, the different approaches that people can take with our funds. We have people who come in with, $1 million to set up one kind of fund, and people who come in with just an idea and no money to set up other kinds. And we take them all. So there's a lot of different things that we can do.
Well, I'm excited to kind of go through these. I'll remind you of this at the end, but we also have a little summary of the fund options here at North Valley Community Foundation on our website. That's www.nvcf.org/fund-options. I wanted to mention also that it might seem a little strange to be talking about all these different fund options when our mini-series is focused on charitable gift planning. And we're going to mention along the way here a number of reasons why it does fit in with charitable gift planning. To start off, I wanted to just mention a couple of funds that we talk about in this mini-series. That's a donor-advised fund, which is a very interesting fund. We have actually a number of these where basically an individual can donate cash or appreciated securities or even real estate. There's all kinds of possibilities into their own donor-advised fund. Usually it's a family name with that. And then once they do that and take a deduction for it on their tax return potentially, they can then make charitable gifts out of that fund, ask us to issue a check or a transfer to various nonprofit organizations of their choosing well into the future. They don't have to do it instantly. So that's the same thing with a donor endowment fund. An endowment fund is a little bit different in that it usually will provide a sizable investment, typically $50,000 or more, that goes into the endowment fund, and a percentage of the fund balance is distributed each year, typically 4 or 5%. There's also donor-endowed scholarship funds, and Logan, I know you're deeply involved with scholarship funds. Maybe you could kind of give us a quick rundown on how those work and why people like to put those together.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to talk a little bit more about non-endowed scholarship funds here in a minute, but the endowed scholarships are really interesting. These are scholarship funds that, in many cases, NVCF is operating on behalf of folks who are no longer with us. They had set up these endowment funds to pay out, like you said, a regular amount, 4% per year, but that's made directly in scholarships to students in high school who will be attending college. And the idea is we set up the requirements for those scholarship funds so they can be run in perpetuity. So the community foundation will take on the responsibility of running those. And some of them, the original donors passed away decades ago, and we run them every single year.
How about an example? I think we have one that popped up recently, as I recall.
Yeah, we have one that we actually didn't know was coming, but we got the estate documents from somebody who left some money to the community foundation, and in it laid out the stipulations for a committee and criteria for a scholarship. It's a sizable donation, and it, presumably will be available to students in Butte County for decades to come.
Pretty interesting, actually. As I recall, that one was through an estate that we didn't even know about for $400,000, which is a sizable scholarship. What about the other scholarship funds that are set up here? Tell us a little about those, in particular, where maybe they were established as a memorial fund, a scholarship.
Absolutely, yeah. We have a lot of scholarships that originated as memorial funds. Scholarships are really beneficial to people who are going through a loss, I think, because it allows them to make something that really memorializes the person that they lost. And a lot of times the scholarship criteria will be, if they were an architect, it'll be to send somebody to study architecture. We have several that are for nursing and for animal studies. And it's something that we can do really quickly. So when a family's experienced a loss, they can reach out to us and we can set up the fund in time for the obituary and the celebration of life so that they can get donations to fund that scholarship in lieu of flowers.
Very good.
And it's something that they can, come back later and establish the criterion committee for. We can set up the fund in real time. And then over the course of a year or two, sometimes the family needs a little bit of time to get it going. We stay in contact with them and help them set up and start offering the scholarship when they're ready.
Outstanding. I know there's a couple of interesting ones where they actually put on an annual event to raise money from, say, a golf tournament or some other type of event that is a memorial for the individual who has passed away, especially with kids. There's quite a few that are in memory of children that have passed away, unfortunately, far too soon.
And it's interesting that you bring that up because that's another one of the great offerings with these scholarship funds and several of the funds that we'll talk about is the ability to have fundraisers and to accept those tax-deductible donations. So, in these situations where it would be way too much to establish a nonprofit just to offer an annual scholarship, they can come to us and use our nonprofit umbrella to offer tax deductions for any donations that come in through their event or through their fundraising.
Yeah, in fact, the next one on our list, I think actually that's the entire purpose of it. We call it a charitable impact fund. And this is usually, as I understand, a group of individuals who are interested in raising money annually for a particular cause.
Yeah, I think for the years that I've been here, this is probably the most popular type of fund or the most, there are more charitable impact funds that I think the average person in Butte County would know the name of as opposed to some of our other fund types because you're right, they're typically events, they're for fundraising, and a lot of times they're to pay out to local nonprofits right away. So a great example is the Walk Wolf Wag event that happens annually. It's been going on for years and years, and it's to benefit the Friends of the Chico Animal Shelter. It's a great event. A lot goes into it, but it would be a lot to establish and run a nonprofit corporation to have this annual event. So they do it under our umbrella. They get to kind of behave as though they're a nonprofit for that day, and we help to facilitate all of that and keep everything correct on the accounting and the legal side.
We handle all the back office issues.
All the stuff that the people raising money to help dogs don't necessarily want to become experts on.
That's a great point that they oftentimes do appear, and people oftentimes are very surprised to learn that they aren't a separate nonprofit. They come under our umbrella as a 501c3 and act just like a nonprofit, but with all of the guidance and work behind the scenes being handled by the Community Foundation.
And they can access our event insurance, our accounting department writes all the tax receipts, all of the things that we do every day that they would only need for this one day a year, and we just kind of take care of it for them when that time comes.
Yeah. Those charitable impact funds are really quite interesting in that it's usually a volunteer group that has come together to address some need within the community. There's another category of charitable impact funds that don't necessarily put on events or fundraisers, but and a lot of interest in this right now. But these are charitable impact funds that are for disaster relief efforts. Mm-hmm. Why don't you address that a little bit, if you would, please, Logan?
Yeah, absolutely. So the general idea of the Charitable Impact Fund is that it allows groups to fundraise like they're nonprofits without having to be nonprofits. That's great for the annual events like we talked about, but also when a community or when groups in a community want to respond to something. So these are where we open our disaster funds in response to fires. After the Camp Fire, we had about a dozen designated funds that were, in addition to our general fundraising for relief from the Camp Fire, were groups that were raising money in specific areas for specific needs. We also opened some after the Dixie Fire, and right now we're using a charitable impact fund model to raise money for the Bidwell Mansion and for the Feather River Seventh-day Adventist school shooting. These are using that same kind of model where the public can donate, anybody can raise the money, and then once it's given to us, we have our obligations as a community foundation to make sure that those monies are spent in a way that's in accordance with what we told the donors and that are legal by the charitable laws that
Oh, I'm so glad
us.
You said legal in there.
Yep. I did it just for you, Bill.
Just for me. Thank you. All right. Well, these various funds, charitable impact funds that are for disasters, for fundraising efforts, and so forth, are all funds that aren't under a separate nonprofit. Mm-hmm. Once in a while, as a matter of fact, I think quite a bit more recently, there are folks who feel like their cause is important enough to go ahead and create their own nonprofit organization. Mm-hmm. How do we help them out?
Yeah, there are a lot of groups, and this is something that we do in our kind of onboarding a lot of times, is talk about both what the group wants to do now and what they're hoping to be doing several years from now. Operating under our charitable umbrella means that they have to listen to all of our rules in addition to all the IRS and the state rules. And if they're going to be, having their own employees, if they're planning to be getting their own facilities, operating as a business over a period of years, rather than opening them under our umbrella, we set up what we call a nonprofit incubator fund. And these funds allow them to raise money kind of like the charitable impact funds. It can be tax deductible, but all of the money that comes to the community foundation for these efforts has to be used first to establish the nonprofit. So we can raise money for them to cover their filing fees, to cover fees associated with an attorney or a CPA if they need to retain that, if they're going to be a more complicated structure of nonprofit. And one of the things that we've started doing more recently is, again, trying to leverage the expertise of the community foundation to do some of these filings for them. So now when we have a group come in that wants to start a nonprofit, we can handle their filings to the Secretary of State, the IRS, and the Attorney General, Franchise Tax Board, for them in concert with them, letting them see everything, letting them understand the process, but we can provide a little bit more service there and help them really quickly and easily get off the ground as a nonprofit. And then any money that we have in their account, once they become their own fully fledged nonprofit, we grant to the new nonprofit, and that becomes kind of their seed funding.
How long does it normally take to become your own nonprofit? I've heard lots of rumors out there that it takes forever.
Funny thing is, all the rumors are probably true at different times. We were doing this during COVID, and it was easily taking 10 months to hear back from the IRS. More recently, we've had things turn around in 2 or 3 months. What I usually tell folks is as long as we're going at the process, kind of getting the filings in as quickly as we can, they should be able to be operating as a nonprofit within about 6 months.
Excellent. That's pretty fast, actually.
It's pretty fast. And it's faster than it has been in the past.
The interesting piece about that is that because they are a fund under our 501c3, they can immediately start raising contributions from people who are interested in seeing that nonprofit live on from once it separates from our umbrella on that.
And we certainly see that. We have some nonprofit incubator fund advisors come in with just a seed of an idea of a thing they want to do in the world. And sometimes we have them come in and say, I have this fully fledged idea and somebody wants to put $100,000 towards my idea. And I want to go ahead and give them the ability to write that check now while it's fresh on their mind.
Yeah.
And like you say, that's a great way that we can serve those who have donors who already want to support their mission, but they can't do that themselves yet.
And of course, because those donations are coming in through us, they are fully tax deductible as a charitable contribution as well. One other area that I'd like to touch on is we call them agency designated fund. So we use the term nonprofit fund for an actual nonprofit organization, and agency fund for funds that are set up by government agencies such as police departments, fire departments, even cities that have particular programs or individual projects that they would like the public to help out with. Can you give me a couple of examples there?
Yeah, we actually have we have a ton of examples of this. We've had funds with the city to support the Caper Acres playground in Lower Bidwell Park. We've had several, and in those instances, it was easier for the city to allow the community to support these projects by giving through the community foundation. We could keep those monies segregated and specifically for the park, and it didn't necessarily have to enter the city coffers. It has the public benefit, so we can help them kind of move that along without all of the complexity of the government budgeting process. We've had individual funds for the wall at Caper Acres, for the shades, and we were one of the major contributors at the actual inception of the park.
So those types of funds are really to support government activities that are for community benefit. And one of the reasons, I think, why people seem to like that is that they know that we exercise the control over how those monies are spent. In other words, oftentimes we will write a check to the builder of the shades, for example, that are there at Caper Acres. Or I know we've had in the past efforts to improve the observatory in the park, all of which are agency-type projects. Sure exciting to think that people can support specific community-oriented projects that are put on by government agencies. Any other quick examples that you can think of?
When the city opened the pallet shelter.
Chico City.
City of Chico last year, they opened a fund where the community could donate to benefit beautification efforts and the things that weren't in the city budget for the maintenance of that facility. And it just created another way for people to kind of give and to support what the city's doing.
I know we've talked primarily about agencies within the Chico or Butte County area, but just as a quick reminder, we also have agency funds, a few, where we'd always love to talk to other agencies that are located not only in Butte County, but in Glenn, Tehama, and Colusa County. Those 4 counties, those are the ones that are in our footprint here at the North Valley Community Foundation. We need to get better word out, and maybe this is a way to do it on that.
Great.
Well, thank you very much, Logan. I do want to just remind you folks that you can check out these funds. I'm sure our wonderful Megan, who is one of the stars of the Love Warriors podcasts, she will be able to put that link up on our website. And just as another reminder, we also have lots of information about charitable gift planning at nvcfgiving.org. And I think Megan will probably put something up on that one as well for us. Any of these funds tie into charitable gift planning very nicely, because folks can leave contributions to these various funds through wills, through trusts, through beneficiary designations. They can make current gifts from appreciated stock, real estate, and many other assets, even cryptocurrency, which is a little bit high in value right now. So we can assist with the liquidation of that without having to pay capital gains tax. I know you've heard it before, but that's an important feature. Again, Logan, thank you. Any parting words of wisdom? Other than to come in and see you.
Yeah, come by. If you have an idea, if any of this sounds appealing or interesting, come by and talk about your idea with us. We are good at figuring out how to help.
I couldn't agree more. Thank you again, Logan.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate it. Bye-bye.